Yeah, YouTube. Watching when the teacher shoots up the school.
A previously well-loved professor started to sour his image in front of his students after derailing class again and again to talk about his obsession with Las Vegas and to hit on female students. While it has become more and more common
What?
for students in the United States to take out
Oh,
their
hell
anger at
no.
schools, it isn't often that a professor will
Yo,
do the
what's the
same.
alternate version?
I think we've all had at least one professor or teacher throughout our lives that couldn't really stick to the coursework and instead spent the class period rambling on about their personal life. What's much less
You
common
know
is
what, I'm
that
gonna
that
lie, that shit
professor
has for
ends up
sure happened
becoming a
before.
rage-fueled maniac, dead set on
I don't know
carrying
if
out some sort of
it's
attack
happened like
against
every
his
single fucking class.
associates. Why, though, you might ask? And for that, let's start back at the beginning.
Fuck you.
Anthony James Polito, who went by Tony, was born in 1956. Born and raised in North Carolina, he would live there for most of his life. Little is known about his
Yo, this
childhood, but we do
motherfucker,
know
bro.
that he worked for East Carolina University
Fuck
from
you, White
1992
Monkey.
to 1994. Working as a professor of business, this would be the beginning of his long career working at various universities throughout the U.S. During his stint at the university, he was arrested on a charge of computer trespass in Virginia, which is
Hold
an
on, what?
accusation similar to a charge of hacking. Leaving ECU after 2 years of work, he
Really?
then worked at
Hacking?
the University of Georgia until
Come on, bro. It's too soon,
1995.
bro. Why they gotta
He
bring it up in
then
the
worked
video,
for
too?
one semester at Brenau University before working at the University of Northern Iowa until 2001. Then finally he went back to work for East Carolina University
God
for the
damn,
next
this is
16
he's been
years as
passed
a tenured
around.
associate professor in the Department of Marketing and Supply Chain Management. All throughout his tenure at ECU in Greenville, Tony was actually well known as a popular, albeit
Yo, on
strange
season 3
professor.
of
While,
The
like any
Walking Dead.
professor out there, he had some
Yeah,
students who
I
didn't
just
quite
got to
like him
episode
here
3
and there,
yesterday.
he
I'm
was
pretty sure.
very
Yeah,
well
I'm on
liked for
episode
the
3
most
now.
part. Part of what made Tony so strange was how lax his classes really were. He didn't take attendance, didn't require the students to buy the textbook, and didn't give many tests.
Hold
He
on,
instead
W
using his
teacher.
university
Hold
email address
on.
or
This is
some
my
sort
type
of
of teacher
system
right
to
here.
communicate with.
Ah!
I think he went at the end of every
Fuck.
semester on
My secret
God,
formula today.
you bitch.
It's in this
Hold
box.
on, why I feel like I've seen
The
this one
all-new
before?
Olay Super
What's the
Serum Body
name?
Wash with all of our favorite skincare ingredients. It
Hold
transforms your
on.
skin from
Then I'm gonna show her again. Hold on, why she look familiar?
when to go, areas to
Oh
stay,
fuck, where was I
things
at?
like that. Other students said that, over time, also been growing in popularity. Tony would take the in every day in my cover letter and beyond to help elevator by to be nothing including some document to go,
Fuck, where was
areas
I
to
at?
stay, things like that. With another who attended his marketing class saying, he would talk about going to Vegas all the time. He would give us students, like, pointers on when to go, and students had that. Making stories about his management, Paul Whittington later spoke of how these classes played out. He said that the whole first month of the class consisted entirely of talking about the syllabus. After that, Tony preferred to use each class to tell the students stories about his favorite topic on Earth.
Yo, am
Lost
I
Vegas
bugging?
with a personal
What the fuck was
website and
that?
textbook and didn't give many tests.
Oh, hold on, here we
For
go.
the most part. Part of what made Tony so strange was how lax his classes really were. He didn't take attendance, didn't require the students to buy the textbook,
W
and
fucking
didn't give many
class.
tests.
W teacher,
Instead of
man.
using
Hey,
the
that's my type of
university
teacher right
email
there.
address or some sort of a system within the university, Tony preferred his students to contact him through his personal website and email. One of Tony's students
That's
who
a bit
attended his
strange.
class called Introduction to Operations Management, Paul Whittington, later spoke of how these classes played out.
No
He
lie.
said that the whole first month
First
of
2
the
months
class
in the syllabus,
consisted
yeah,
entirely of
you might,
talking about the
you my type of
syllabus.
teacher, buddy.
After that, Tony preferred to use each class to tell the students stories about his favorite topic on Earth, Las Vegas.
Hold on, what's this
Tony was
deception with
absolute
Las
fiend
Vegas?
for
God
anything
damn.
Vegas, having dozens and dozens of stories about his time on the Strip and out in the desert to tell his students day in and day out. Paul, saying that the class was the most unconventional that he had ever attended, later said, I think he went at the end of every semester, so at least twice a year. He would talk about all the hotels that he stayed in, all the restaurants he would go to, all the clubs and shopping places he would go to, maybe some friends that he had made, people he went to visit when he was out there. That was the class.
New Vegas
If you
reference.
could imagine a college class where
What do you
you
mean?
just relive someone's vacation, like, that was kind of his class.
Shit, that's my type of class. Come on, I got next.
This wasn't an outlier for that particular class either. Some of his other previous students have reiterated very much of the same, with another who attended
You
his
play the
marketing
Fallout
class
games?
saying, he
No,
would talk about going to Vegas all the time.
I have not.
He would give us students, like, pointers on when to go, areas to stay, things like that. Other students said that, over time, Tony came to demand perfection of his students. For instance, if a student was asked to print out some documents for him, they would be heavily
Damn
criticized if the
out
print was
gamer.
misaligned even slightly, being ordered to start them all over from square one. In 2011, there was a shooting scare
Gosh,
on
mad,
campus,
or
and due to
2011?
that, the whole place went into lockdown for a while. However, it was only a misunderstanding. It turns out that what somebody had reported to be a gun turned out to be nothing more than an umbrella in the end. Shortly after, Tony
Yeah, that
demonstrated
motherfucker's
his lack of
blind.
ability to read the room when he gifted some of his students an umbrella as a joke.
Yeah.
Women
What?
in Tony's classes tended to have a fairly different experience than the men, if they were hot, that is. One woman who began to attend his classes ran into him on the elevator by coincidence before they formally met in the classroom. This led to an excited conversation on Tony's part and something of an intern position for the woman. Tony started to go above and beyond to help
Out
her
of
with
nowhere,
what
you want to give out interns, huh, buddy? Fuck Otter.
she needed. During one point when he was helping her with her resume, she began to feel that his intentions weren't so pure, saying, "I initially brought my resume and my cover letters and stuff, like just for him to review, but it slowly became apparent that it was not as innocent." From that point onward, Tony would continue to contact the woman every single day for the entire semester.
God
either through
damn,
email or by
every
phone
day?
or by text. He started bringing her gifts, and by the end of the semester, invited her to his usual end-of-semester Las Vegas trip.
Gifts?
Feeling very uncomfortable, she
What
declined the
honor?
offer and began to distance herself. Tony started to develop a new obsession, and that was reviews that his students would leave about him. Not only were there the usual end-of-term professor reviews that a lot of universities give out, but the website Rate My Professor had also been growing in popularity. Tony would take the
Snap.
majority of the positive reviews from that website and upload them to his own personal website as well. Not
Fair enough.
content with only posting them on his website, he would obsessively bring up the reviews during class time as well, often presenting them to the students as a badge of honor and awkwardly asking the students to discuss their thoughts on them. However, while Tony did enjoy talking about the positive reviews, he took much more of an obsession with the negative ones. That particularly scathing, with one reading, "Funny teacher but extremely disorganized. Tell students about real-life experiences to help you understand better. We'll tell stories for the first few months, but then we'll give multiple tests in the last
Yo, what the
month
fuck?
based
What do you
on
mean? What are you talking about?
Odin Valhalla. Now
Fuck!
available on
Still though, Tony couldn't handle receiving a bad review of any sort. He would do his best to figure out which of his students had left these negative
What?
anonymous reviews by
Oh,
heavily
hell no.
analyzing their writings and any past interactions they may have had together. He would often make comments about these negative reviews in class and openly point out which students he thought had left them. Tony had grown fairly active on social media as well, with most of his writings predictably revolving around Las Vegas, the state of Nevada in general, and various conspiracy theories he believed in. He was also more than happy to brag about his self-proclaimed 160 IQ.
What am I
and
playing when
boast
the
of his
Steam sale
membership at
goes?
Mensa International. On his YouTube
Shit,
channel,
depending
he
on
only
what's on
posted
sale.
3
I don't know. I have a
videos,
couple
all
games
of
in the
which
wish
were room
list
tours
that I
of
might
Las
get.
Vegas
Most of them are
hotels.
like horror
He
and
followed
shit.
a few channels, those being of political commentators, Vegas travel blogs, and porn stars. Rather than on social media,
You
though,
sick
he would often
fuck.
focus more on his personal website.
Yeah, look at this little horny
The
fuck right
website
here,
looked
man.
like something straight out political commentators, Vegas travel blogs, and porn stars. Rather than on social media, though, he would often focus more on his personal website. The website looked like something straight out of 1998, being mostly a plain text wall of various links on one single page. All over the page, his ego seeps through, with much of the content consisting of brags in one way or another. While his website seemed to have originally been intended to serve as a resume of sorts, it quickly evolved into something quite different. The resume-style section at the top of the page came to be completely dwarfed by the massive pool of pages listed underneath. He featured links to anything he found interesting in any capacity. A lot were related to his field, the news, and shopping. Of course, many
At
of
least
the
Steam
links
won't hack
involved
you, really,
travel
buddy?
and Las Vegas.
You know what? I hope
He
you.
had
I
a
hope
whole
you wake up.
section
Nah, you know what?
dedicated
I hope you
to
wake
shapes
up
of
one day
eyes
to your
and another for
PC.
cufflinks. One section was entirely
Just
dedicated
playing
to, as
mad-
he titled it, powerful
mad-
organizations bent on
mad-
world domination.
Ooh.
This was a list of what
I hope your
most
parents
people
walk
considered to
in
be just
and they
that.
just see mad,
Skull and Bones,
mad
Bohemian
poor
Grove,
on your
Illuminati,
on your
and
screen,
more.
buddy.
All in all, a very basic list of average conspiracy theories. More interesting, though, was the section in which he claimed to solve many of the world's mysteries himself. For instance, he claimed that he had solved the mystery of the Zodiac Killer and proved his identity. He also believed that he knew what happened with Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 and claimed
Yeah,
that
this
he
dude
figured out
is
the identity
chatting,
of what he
bro.
called the mysterious
The fuck is he on
skyscrapers in
about?
Las Vegas. He also seemed to take a
13
keen interest in the
straight?
2001 anthrax attacks, in which many envelopes containing the dangerous white powder were sent to various people throughout the United States. In addition to links, Tony wrote quite a bit
Yo,
of
Tony,
blog
what do you
on the
want, buddy?
website himself. On one page called Statement of Instructional Philosophy,
And how does it
he
send to
rants
him
about
shooting up a school?
universities and how they work. He wrote, "There is political turf fighting, ignoble actions, pettiness, insularity. These halls are best reserved not for those short in moral character, but for those who intend to mold it." Of course, as previously mentioned, Tony's positive student reviews were listed near the top of the page. This positivity wouldn't outweigh what would happen
Vital
next during
signs
his
of
classes.
sexual
One woman was
effectiveness.
attending Tony's business course at ECU in 2016 when things quickly started to go downhill. Much like the other female students before her, Tony quickly took an interest in her.
Of course.
One
he
day
did.
she was in class, Tony felt that her boobs were looking particularly magical. He walked up to her and told her that if she wore a shirt that showed that much cleavage for the rest of the semester, she'd get an A for sure. She, along with the other students in the room that heard what he said, were appalled and pretty grossed out. She reported the whole
I'm
thing to
doing
the
it.
university administration.
My bad.
After that, Tony never returned to class.
Hey, a free A
He
is a free
resigned from
A.
his teaching job at ECU completely on January 17th, 2017.
A free A
With
is a
his
free
long
A,
stint at
buddy.
ECU now over, he wasn't feeling as dejected as you might assume. On the contrary, he felt that this would be the perfect time to do what he had always wanted to do, move to Las Vegas. He did
Of
just
course.
that, and upon moving to the Vegas area, Tony started working at Roseman University of Health Sciences, a private four-year school in Henderson, in 2018. He would go on to work there for the next few years, seemingly enjoying his time there as an adjunct professor of business. However, he would be struck with grief when the school abruptly decided to discontinue their MBA program, leaving him without a job. He was let go in June of 2022.
What the
This
fuck?
quick and
Why is the CBS? There's no need for a CBS to be that big.
anticlimactic termination would haunt him for the rest of his life. Tony would never get over it. In fact, his rage regarding the incident only continued to grow over time. Desperate to stay in the Vegas area, Tony started applying to be a professor at all sorts of schools throughout Nevada. One of these schools was the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV for short. This application, though, along with all of the others he sent, were completely unsuccessful.
Yeah, fuck
Tony's
Otter,
anger
Tony.
continued to grow.
Fuck
He
Otter.
began to plot carrying out his revenge in one way or another, but he wasn't quite sure on
Revenge?
how he would do it.
Well, hold on now.
It seems that
What is
by
he
July
exactly getting revenge on?
2022, though, he started to formulate a plan. He went out and bought himself a handgun. From that point onward, he would buy some more supplies for his gun, little by little over time, like magazines and a whole load of ammunition. Tony started to prepare a list
Space
of
them
his
out
targets.
so it doesn't look
This list
suspicious.
consisted mainly
Hold
of
on, let me write that.
revenge agents,
Okay, let me
mainly
chill.
people that he had met through work over the years. Many of them were
Tony
his
is
colleagues from East Carolina
misunderstood.
University.
No, I
Some
think he's
were
just a
his
fucking
rival
creep, buddy.
professors, and others were some high-up faculty members that he felt were giving him trouble. On November 5th, 2023, Tony pulled up to the UNLV campus in
I
his
think he
car
might just
and
be a
parked
creep.
somewhere in the parking lot, scoping out the school. It isn't known why Tony had decided that of all the schools he applied to, UNLV would be
He's
a
just
prime target
doing
for
his job.
revenge, especially considering that most people
By
on
telling
his
a
target
girl
list were back
in
at
his
ECU
class that
or
his
half a
tits,
continent
that her
away.
tits looked.
UNLV was far
Well,
from
what do you
the
say?
only school
Impeccable? Is
he
that the word he
applied
used? Is that the word he used? They look at what? Impeccable? Is that what he said? Some shit like that saying you wear shirts like that all the time, you'll get a free A. I mean, shit, I would have done it. I would have done it. A free A is a free A. A free A is a free A, man. I would have done it.
to that had rejected his application. For whatever reason, though,
Hold on,
he
this is about to
decided
shoot
that
up
he
the
would make
school
this
that-
school the site of his revenge plan.
What the fuck they do?
Valhalla Rising. Now available.
Cause they didn't hire you, goddamn. What? They had to be this normal compliment, yeah. I ain't gonna lie, Wise Monkey, we might gotta keep an eye on you, buddy.
Left at the end of his rope. You might think that a man in his late 60s who worked as a professor for over 25 years would have probably saved up quite a bit of money to coast on for probably the rest of his life, but that was not the case.
Man, he was
Tony
going to Vegas every
running
single year,
completely
multiple
dry on
times. You know
funds.
damn well he was not
only
saving
had he
money.
received an eviction notice, but he was also $75,000 in debt to
God
various different credit
damn.
card companies. Not only that, but Tony had failed to develop any sort of social life in the area, talking to virtually nobody outside of the swinger and sugar daddy websites he would use to try and find women. Every
Swinging
once in a while,
and shit. Hold on, let me do some research. What'd he say? Ooh, let's not show that now. Not trying to get me now, baby. What do you say? Hold on. Let's go down. Let me just hold on.
While he would pay, Tony had failed to develop any sort of social life in the area, talking to virtually nobody outside of the swinger and sugar daddy websites he would use
Sugar.
to try and find women.
Fuck. Hold on. That's a dating app. Respectful sugar and attracting sugar babies. Join Sugar Daddy Me and elevate your lifestyle to the next level. The number one sugar daddy is a premier online sugar daddy dating say meet your perfect sugar match and start enjoying the sugar lifestyle. Yeah, buddy, you might be cooked. I know you like to. Yeah.
Every once in a while,
Fuck
he would
off.
pay for a prostitute to come visit him at his house.
Make
where
sure
he
not to
had a
click any
closet full
links,
of outfits that
dickhead.
he had prepared for them to wear. But he
Fuck
didn't
you,
seem to know
dickhead.
anyone in the city in any meaningful capacity.
Man, I do not be
Decided
clicking
that he would
links,
write
bro.
letters
That's
to
not
everyone he
true.
hated in his personal life.
No.
This wasn't something he only did to let off steam, as he fully intended to send the letters. He sent them to over 40 people throughout the country, with many of them containing personal messages as to why he hated the person so much. The contents of the letters were very angry to say the least, and
Wait, hold on. He
wasn't
was on the
explaining
letters.
much
Hold
about
on. I'm not locked in right now.
decided that he would write letters to
Fine.
everyone he hated in his personal life. This wasn't
What?
something he only did to let off steam, as he fully intended to send the letters. He sent them to over 40 people throughout the country, with many of them containing personal messages as to why he hated the person so much. The contents of the letters were very angry to say the least, and more or less explain much of Tony's motivations. Throughout the letters, he seemed completely obsessed with his IQ, using it to either show off or insult any other associates. Despite having lost everything else in his life, at least he could say he was smart, he felt. Ironically, though,
Yeah,
while doing
and
so,
somehow
he
you're
both
still
used
in debt,
terrible
dickhead.
grammar and
Fuck outta.
spelling, making it hard to
Not
even
that smart
understand
if you're
his
able to
points
get
at
in debt when
times.
you have a good
One
paying
letter
job.
read, "You
Or a
arrogant,
well-paid
preppy,
job.
rich, spoil-ass, smart-mouth scold. You post incomplete on me, 160 IQ, UGA, PhD student in seminar, just to make him beg you for the grade." Another said,
Have you
"Me,
seen the
160
disappearance of
IQ,
Riker
already with
Webb?
UG degree in statistics.
No, I
Some
have
master's
not.
classes in stats also." With another yet reading, "You wrecked career and life of genius doctor, 160 IQ, and ethical professor, praised by several thousand of ECU students with your pile of paperwork lies." And another saying, "You run national advertisements, say you need instructor of management. Then you ignore all the highly qualified
Webb.
faculty from
Oh, I
across
have
the
seen this one
country.
actually.
Dr. 160 IQ apply. He would vastly benefit your students."
Yeah, I've seen TikToks about it. And I
Tony's
think I watched a
hatred
video
for his
about it a while
associates
ago.
was very real. Many of the letters were nothing more than
Well, that was a
profanity
crazy
and
story.
insults without much specific substance. One in particular read, "Your shit-for-brains, ununionized, third-tier dean frat boy Stan Eakins and his crew at ECU criminally forced about 18 tenured facility of age to abandon their tenure using straight-up lying
Your shit for brains unionized. Whoa, hold on now. Your shit for brains unionized third tier dean frat boy Stan Akins and his crew at ECU criminally forced about 18 to set banded
paperwork and lying students and threats to destroy their health care by firing them, just so he could go window shopping for new faculty that might do more useless research to please you fucks at AACSB. In some of the letters, he referenced violent urges he had in the past, such as when he wrote to one associate, "Here's the big fuck you that you earned over the 17 years you
Now hold on, Tony. I like this one from you right there. I like this one from you.
constantly victimized
The
and
big
targeted me
fuck
and abused
you.
me. You evil, psycho-medicated weasel. You just damn lucky I had the decency to leave town instead of coming to your house to settle up our business."
Hold on now. What you mean by that, buddy?
The talkies.
What the hell no? That should not look good. Are those fries? They are fries.
Coach thought.
Toward the end of the letters, he made a much more general message about his grievances. As you can see from these few examples above, 99+% of higher education, once a noble of endeavors, has morphed into an absolute corrupt scam, a massive sewer where average people with zero moral compass, amoral grifters, compose themselves as expert professors and valuable administrators.
Yes, man,
And
you know damn well you
all
be
while
eating that shit
collecting
every
a
day, buddy.
lifetime shitload of salary and fat benefits with almost no chance of ever being fired.
Yo, this dude's going in on everybody,
Faculty, staff,
goddamn.
administrators all care nothing about students or education, despite all their cover claiming so loudly that they do. The ultimate attitude in universities about students is typically they paid their fees so they get their B's. Almost 90% of all undergraduate students get either an A or a B in their class, even though C is supposed to be the average grade. So mommy and daddy and student can all peacock and strut that they got above average grades and look up to the institution their entire lifetimes. Universities and colleges have become the ultimate thrift, advertising what they offer as a 4-year, 5-star vacation resort for undergraduates, instead of advertising what ought to be a demanding intellectual experience that improves students and society. Boasting a tax-free status, while raking in tons of tuition borrowed from naive students who will never be able to pay it back, donations from brainwashed alumni as well as, in the case of private elite institutions, from well-intentioned but gullible people of wealth, and, in the case of public institutions, a shitload of taxpayer money. All of it is
Taco
used to
boy,
endlessly
okay,
and
buddy.
expand the cushy and grossly
Okay, hold
overpaid
on.
power bases and facilities of their mediocre faculties, staffs, and administrators. Rather than end the letters on that note,
See, you're Canadian. What the fuck am I supposed to say about you?
He made a bizarre play instead. Instead of end on his major motivations, he decided to end the letters on a rant
Like,
about
what can I say about
Geico
Canadians, huh?
insurance.
Let me
It seems
see.
that at some point Tony had wrecked his car and the company
No,
had
hold
refused
on.
to pay the full amount to have the car repaired. He wrote, "Geico doesn't pay claims. I just parked my wrecked car by a major
Nah, this ain't
intersection
even a
with
good
sign
comeback,
on it that
man.
says just
That's like the
that.
only thing y'all
So
could
you
think,
could
I can
use
think about
thousands of
y'all.
customers."
It's the only thing y'all got for
Tony went
real.
out and mailed all of the letters, most of which
Straight up,
were
that's it.
generic greeting cards made
Like,
for
what am I supposed to say
birthdays
about
or
that?
anniversaries. Using his interest
I was
in
about to say
handcrafts,
something
he decided
crazy,
to
but never
include
mind.
some
Now, let me
sort
hear
of
it. Let me hear it. Come on.
envelopes. While whatever he used was later deemed to be harmless, it definitely
Now, let
gave
me hear it,
those who
buddy.
opened it a bit of a scare. In yet another bizarre move, Tony decided to upload the contents of these letters to his personal website as well. Under a link called Content of Envelopes, anyone out there was able to download a PDF file containing all the letters he had sent to all of these different people. However, likely realizing that this would probably get him reported to the police before he was even able to carry out any sort of attack, he quietly deleted the download link later with no explanation. And then came the day. On December 6, 2023, Tony Polito pulled up to the UNLV campus at around 11:30 a.m. He made his way over to the Frank and Estella Beam Hall, one of the main instructional buildings for the school and notably the primary building
Don't make me
for the
report.
business
Okay,
program.
don't make
With
me
finals coming
report
up,
you to
many of the students were
someone.
outdoors socializing while their professors were inside preparing for the upcoming exams. Tony, meanwhile, was
how
approaching
we're doing,
a
buddy?
long dark coat with a Taurus 9mm handgun and 11 fully loaded
Oh,
magazines
fuck.
in his pockets.
Oh,
Tony walked
damn,
inside
Tony, what the
building and
fuck?
made his way up to the 4th floor. This is where he pulled out his gun and started shooting wildly. An alarm started to sound all throughout the building, with many students frantically screaming that there was a man with a gun. Students and teachers locked themselves into classrooms and offices as Tony made his way through the 4th, 3rd, and then 2nd floors of the building, shooting at anyone he came across.
Perma-ban.
Many of the students reported hearing flurries of gunshots followed by screams of pain all throughout the building. Many people in the building,
Tony a
at least
crash out?
dozen,
Yeah,
made calls
Tony's
to the police
bugging.
as the school itself. Students and teachers locked themselves into classrooms and offices as Tony made his way through the 4th, 3rd, and then 2nd floors of the building, shooting at anyone he came across. Many of the students reported hearing flurries of gunshots followed by screams of pain all throughout the building. Many people in the building, at least a dozen, made calls to the police as the school itself posted a message to Twitter saying that the police were on their way, warning students at the Beam Hall to evacuate to a safe area if they were able. 15 minutes after Tony first parked his car at the school, the police were on their way to Beam Hall. Only 1 minute after the original call was placed, at least one officer was on scene. The police made their way into the building and quickly came across Tony, calmly walking through in his long coat. The police, though, having no description of the killer, thought that the 67-year-old man was likely only a bystander.
Oh,
They
God.
shouted at him from a second-story balcony, telling him to get out of the area. Tony said nothing as he began to quickly walk towards the door, leaving the building.
Ain't no
By
way
this
just
point,
let him
Tony
walk
had
out like
shot
that.
and killed 3 people in the building, as well
Damn.
as wounded 1 other. He left the building at 11:55 a.m., but he wasn't done just yet. He started making his way to the student
What?
union, very likely hoping to kill as many students as he could. However,
What did the
this
students
was when
do?
the police outside realized that he was the shooter. They chased Tony down as he pulled his gun on them. He shot and wounded 2 police officers as they returned fire on him. Tony was shot 6 times, being hit in the leg, the elbow, the stomach, chest, neck, and finally directly in the face.
Yes.
Tony died on the spot.
Yes.
With Tony out of the picture, the police then assembled a few teams together to search the building for victims or
Fuck out of
possibly
Tony.
shooters. They had
Nah, I'm not gonna lie. This dude really shut up a school that he
where
never even
students and
teached
teachers
that
had
to, by the way.
barricaded the doors.
He went to a school because
It wasn't long before
they
they
didn't
came
hire
across
him.
the 3 victims that Tony had shot. These 3 were Patricia Navarro Valles and Che John Jerry Chong, 2 business school professors who had been present at the time,
Rest in
and
peace.
an associate professor named Nakao Takemaru, who taught Japanese studies.
Your go-to skincare ingredient in 3, 2, 1. Vitamin C. What if I told you that Olay Super Serum...
The wounded victim was found as well, only said to have been a 38-year-old visiting professor
Hold on.
with critical
That,
injuries.
hold on. She looked
Luckily, he
familiar.
was treated at the hospital and came to survive the attack. The 2 police officers injured in the shootout were treated at the hospital as well. The police were able to determine that Tony had burned through at least 2 of the full magazines that he had brought to school, with 9 of them still being found on his person. They took his body in for an autopsy, where it was found that he had a significant amount of oxycodone in his system at the time, along with a load of erectile dysfunction medication. The police came across Tony's target lists, which he had brought into the school. None of the victims.
Hold on, was that
actually
person not
on
this
list, given
off
that most
topic?
of
Was
them
that
still
but was that
worked
not her?
at ECU.
Or am I bugging?
A mystery as to why he even took the list with him in the first place. UNLV set up a reunification center in the North Hall of the Las
Tony
Vegas
got sent to the
Convention Center and
gulag.
set up
Yeah,
an
and he
emergency
didn't
hotline.
win.
Classes were canceled for the rest of the week, and the subject of whether or not to even hold finals was discussed. It was soon
No
announced
finals,
the
hold on
were
now.
canceled after all. The nearby College of Southern Nevada also closed its campuses as well. Highways were shut down in order to allow first responders into the area. The Harry Reid International Airport was even shut down for a brief period of time due to possible security threats. The 2 police officers who got into the shootout with Tony, Detective Nathaniel Drum and Officer Damian Garcia, were later hailed as heroes by the police chief during a conference around the attack. Meanwhile, the FBI and the ATF were called in to assist the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department in the investigation. The police pulled up to Tony's apartment and announced over a loudspeaker that they would be entering, not knowing if anyone was still inside. They threw 2 flashbangs into the room before storming in.
Oh,
Luckily,
get
they
beat up for
found
5
nobody
rounds?
was there. They did find Tony's
Yeah,
eviction
no, I
notice,
didn't.
As well as a lot more ammunition.
Not gonna lie.
The detectives were a bit bewildered when they came across all of the dresses that Tony kept for prostitutes in his closet.
What
citing
the
their vast
fuck?
quantity as being of interest.
Yeah, no wonder you wanted that, buddy. What? Yeah, you're bugging.
Tony also had a lot of sex tapes of these encounters, with the police saying that it wasn't clear if the women had consented to being recorded. It later came to appear that they likely hadn't, as they found numerous instructions on how to install spy cameras. They took several of his computers and extra hard drives. At the same time, many of the letters Tony sent were being discovered across the country. On dozens of his devices, they found files about UNLV along with his failed job applications and maps of Beam Hall. They also found a good amount of folders with information about the faculty, mainly from news articles and public records. One of the folders, called Devil Bosses, contained information about
Devil bosses. Yeah, Tony, you might gotta go. Well, shit, you already did. But no, he really did plan this whole shit out. God damn, Tony, what the fuck's wrong with you?
his application.
Yeah, sick
The police
fuck.
soon came across a chair with an arrow taped to it. This arrow was pointing downward towards a document lying in the seat, something that the police said was basically Tony's last will and testament. At first, the police weren't quite sure as to what Tony's motives for the attack were, but it became more clear fairly quickly once the letters came to light. The police said, based on interviews, Polito's perceived superiority and dissatisfaction with the lack of appreciation for his talents were likely aggravating factors. Those closest to him noted his frustration with his lack of employment in Las Vegas. Paul Whittington, the student who had previously attended Tony's classes at ECU and spoke of his time there, said that once he heard a former teacher from ECU carried out a shooting in Las Vegas, he immediately knew who it must be. He said,
Shit, I
"My
would've too if
immediate
that fuck was
reaction
my
was it
teacher."
had to be Tony Polito. I didn't say that because I thought he was capable of anything like that. I didn't say that because I thought that's the kind of person he was. I said that because my entire time in class, he was obsessed with Las Vegas."
He really was.
The
God
mayor of Las
damn.
Vegas at the time, Carolyn Goodman, said that the shooting was tragic and heartbreaking. A few senators, Jackie Rosen and Catherine Cortez Masto, urged their constituents to avoid going to the area. After the shooting, the Vegas Golden Knights team held a moment of silence before starting their match against the St. Louis Blues at the T-Mobile Arena. They continued to honor the victims for a few more matches as well, even wearing t-shirts with their names at various events. Because of the shooting, the National Finals Rodeo canceled their kickoff and held a moment of silence during their next match as well. The Las Vegas Raiders followed suit, doing very much the same. Shortly after the attack, LinkedIn memorialized Tony Polito's
Semi-retired. What do you mean semi?
Or why the decision was made to do so. After a load of backlash, they swiftly deleted his page entirely. Now, Tony
Hold on, wait, why'd they get backlash for? I just saw this semi-retired and got distracted.
Next match as well. The Las Vegas Raiders followed suit, doing very much the same. Shortly after the attack, LinkedIn memorialized Tony Polito's page. It isn't known who or why the decision was made to do so. After a load of backlash, they swiftly deleted. Shortly after the attack, LinkedIn memorialized Tony Polito's page.
Hold on, I need to hear that shit one more time.
Silence during their next match as well. The Las Vegas Raiders followed suit, doing very much the same. Shortly after the attack, LinkedIn memorialized Tony Polito's page. It isn't. Decision was made to do so. After a load of backlash, they swiftly deleted his page entirely. Decision was page. Attack. LinkedIn memorialized Tony.
They memorialized this six fucks page.
Polito's page. It isn't known who.
What?
Or why
Yeah, whoever did that shit, you're a retard.
After a load of backlash, they swiftly deleted his page entirely. Now, Tony is mainly remembered by his students as the oddball professor who hit on girls, bragged about his Vegas trips, and snapped after being fired. His previously positive student reviews have definitely been tainted over time by the knowledge of what he did. Over time, many of his students have remembered more and more behavior that they feel in hindsight at the time they should have felt was more suspicious. Tony likely paid in advance for his website to remain online for quite some time, as it is still up to view in full even 2 years after the shooting.
What?
It seems that he wanted his legacy to live on in one way or another, likely feeling that he would be remembered as some sort of fascinating, intimidating figure. He didn't expect that most people would only be looking into him out of morbid curiosity simply due to the fact that he was so strange. Once again, thank you for watching my video.
Hey, there you been, big bro.
And good night.
You also get attacked a little girl. Hold on now. Anyways, AW Vader.